Call to order the Marshall City Council for December 15th, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Wolfersberger.
Here.
Member Cheney Huggett. Here. Member Gates.
Here.
Member Hackworth.
Here.
Member Skibby.
Here.
Member Traver. Here. And Member Underhill.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. I would ask council to please stand for the invocation. Pastor Kevin Phillips of Grace Point Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, he's not here. All right, well, then we'll just do Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That brings us to approval of agenda. Item 6 is our public comment on agenda items. Item 7 is our consent agenda. Item 8 is presentations and recognitions. We have one with our fiscal year 2025 annual financial audit. That is followed by a number of reports and recommendations. 12A is our minimum cash reserve policy for Fibronet Fund. 12B is our resolution 2025-35, AMP solar power purchase agreement. 12C is our resolution 2025-36, efficiency smart energy waste reduction program. 12D is resolution 2025-40, DG Marshall MI solar energy agreement. 12E is resolution 2025-37 for the Forest Street extension dedication. 12F is resolution 2025-42 for Valley View Court Street dedication. 12G is resolution 2025-38 for Walnut Street decertification. 12H is resolution 2025-30 for special trunk line work contract with MDOT. 12I is resolution 2025-39 support for additional R1 through 6 pedestrian crossing, 1-6, pedestrian crossing signs at Brooks Memorial Fountain Park. 12J is resolution 2025-34 for Tree City USA application. 12K is ordinance 2025-5, chapter 52 sanitary sewer ordinance updates, introduction and set a public hearing. 12L is purchase DPW asphalt patch trailer. 12M is a purchase for the Marshall Regional Law Enforcement Center carpet replacement project. 12N is grant submittal, Calhoun County Senior Services mini grant. And 12O is an agreement with county/city early in-person voting election services. We have item 13, we have no appointments or elections. Item 14 is public comment on non-agenda items. Item 15 is council and manager communications, and item 16 is adjournment. I seek a motion regarding the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support. A motion on support. It's a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to public comment on agenda items. Persons addressing City Council are required to give their name and address for the record when called upon by the mayor. Members of the public shall be limited to speaking for a maximum of 3 minutes. Comments shall address agenda item topics only. Public hearing items should be addressed during the public hearing portion, item 10 of the meeting agenda. Non-agenda items shall be addressed during the public comment, non-agenda items, item 14 portion of the meeting agenda. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to address council on agenda items?
Regis Klingler, Marshall, 348 Butler Court in Marshall. Just a couple items from the agenda. The first one is just for information, the sample calculation on your minimum reserve. I don't think the calculation is right. The expenditure total is not what adds up, doesn't add up to that, so you might want to check that. Hopefully it's better records in the future on that. I'm glad to see the city is putting additional signs around the circle for pedestrian safety. I think that's good. I think it would be even better, like I mentioned before, to put actual signs on the pedestrian signs that say yield to pedestrians and walkway or something. That would be there year-round, and you wouldn't have to take the markers off or on during the year. It would be there all the time. I think people would notice it more. And under 12N, about the Calhoun County Senior Services grant for a defibrillator, at the pickleball courts. As a pickleball player, I hope that you don't limit it to that, because the biggest category in pickleball is 18 to 34-year-olds. So I hope you have a first aid kit out there too for them, not just the defibrillator for the senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council on agenda topics? Yes, sir.
Mary Wayne Adams, 6.2 West Green Street. I agree with Regis on his observations about what's going on with city expenditures. Again, ongoing objection to what are in the minutes, where it always fails to include the substance of the public comment. And again, is a reflection that public comment really is superfluous. It's merely a pro forma ritual that is required by statute, and but it's just one ear and out the other. And the tooling up with all the solar, now the data center possibility, what seems to be failing Blue Oval battery plant. But you're tooling up with systems that inevitably will catastrophically degrade. And the only real long-term consequence will be irreparable debauching of the land and water. And perhaps the council should take a new look at their own understanding of their relationship between themselves and the natural order, and how it is something that cannot be trifled with without serious consequences. And we're already seeing the damages that are occurring from, battery plants, the battery electric storage facilities, and now with the upswelling of, tsunami level upswelling of the attempt to impose data centers all over the state, which is finally getting a significant pushback from the people. They are finally catching on. But tooling up with these systems has maybe a short-term financial thrill, but in the long term, the real-world consequences will be more than devastating. And it's your job to not just think about the living people, but children, grandchildren, and so on. So take that in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Anyone else wishing to address council this evening on agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. 7A is the city council minutes, regular session from December 2nd, 2025. 7B is our city bills, purchases from on November 26, 2025 of $15,787.04. Purchases from December 5th, 2025 of $581,667.37 for a total of $597,454.41. We have 7C is our energy waste reduction program for 2026 through 2029. D is our July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2032 capital improvement program adoption. We are only setting a public hearing for that. 7E is first quarter fiscal year financial report. 7F is first quarter fiscal year investment portfolio. And 7G is first quarter fiscal year 2026 cash position report. I seek a motion regarding the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
We have a motion of support, and it's a roll call vote, please.
Member Cheney Huggett.
Yes.
Member Gates.
Yes.
Member Hackworth.
Yes.
Member Skibby.
Yes.
Member Traver.
Yes.
Member Underhill.
Yes.
And Mayor Wolfersberger.
Yes.
Motion carries, Your Honor.
Thank you. That brings us to 8A, fiscal year 2025 annual financial audit. And William, I think, is going to start us off on this. Good evening.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. As required by city charter and state law, annually the city has to undergo an audit of all of its financial records. This year we have Dane Porter from Manor Costeras, and he'll be here to go over the fiscal year 25 findings, which was the year ended of June 30th, our prior fiscal year.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. As William mentioned, I'm Dane Porter. I'm a senior manager with Maynard Costerison. We've completed the financial audit for your 2025 fiscal year. I just wanted to attend tonight and present the results of the audit to you. I'll go over some of the things that we consider to be some of the key highlights and answer any questions you guys might have. So as I go through, feel free to stop me and ask questions if you have them. I try to answer them tonight if I can. If I can't, I'll get back with you as soon as I can with some answers after I look at some work papers. You should have each received tonight before you a little presentation packet of the slides that I plan to go over. Again, some of the highlights from the financial statements. You should have each received, I believe, a copy of the bound financial statements for the actual financial audit for the city. And then the single audit is forthcoming. We were waiting on the feds to release the compliance supplement to kind of tell us officially what was required to be tested for the single audit program. So that's not quite completed yet, but it will be in the next few days here, and then we'll get that submitted. I got a few slides in the back that kind of go over the summary of the single audit. No changes to it, so it's just a matter of putting the bow on it and submitting it. So with that, we'll get started with the first slide here in the little presentation packet. Pages 1 through 3 of the financial statements is the independent auditor's report. It's the one piece of the financial statements that we consider to be ours. The rest of the financial statements are yours. We've just, we've tested your balances, we've bound it up in the report, that kind of thing, but it is your financial statements. We've just given our opinion on it. So again, pages 1 through 3 is the independent auditor's report. I've got a few select paragraphs from that report in the next couple of slides here. Just like to remind you guys real quick that the primary purpose or the objective of the audit isn't necessarily designed or intended to detect fraud, but certainly if we were made aware of anything during the audit, we would make you guys aware of that. But as usual, nothing of that nature came to our attention, so no news is good news as far as that's concerned. So the next page here, slide number, these don't really have some numbers on them, I guess, but the opinion paragraph, so the second paragraph on page 1 gives our opinion. We've given a unmodified opinion on your financial statements. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give. Basically just means that there's no modifications to it. Everything in the financial statements is fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. There are 4 different opinions that are available to us. There's the unmodified opinion. Again, it's the highest level of assurance that we can give. No modifications to it. There's a modified opinion or a qualified opinion if you are missing a required component of GAAP, such as if you were omitting long-term debt or capital assets or leases, something like that. We might say, except for the effect of capital assets or except for the effect of long-term debt, everything is fairly presented. There's an adverse opinion that's available to us. If the financial statements were not fairly presented, we would simply say that. Then the last opinion that's available to us would be to disclaim the opinion altogether, basically say we could not complete the audit and we issue no opinion. You as the city council, state creditors, things like that, grantors, they're looking for that unmodified opinion. Sometimes the modified opinion is okay. You don't typically want to see either a adverse opinion or a disclaimer. Next page, the first paragraph on page 2, we highlights management's responsibility for the financial statements. So management, being city council, administration, is responsible for the preparation and the fair presentation of the financial statements. That includes the design and the implementation of internal controls over that fair presentation. So again, city council, our management is responsible for fraud deterrence, fraud detection, fraud prevention. The third paragraph on page 2 lays out our responsibilities for the financial statements, and that is essentially we're responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance, or a reasonable assurance. We can't test everything. We test the significant material balances. So again, we're looking for reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. So not all misstatements, I guess, but material misstatements. So again, large balances, things that the financial statement readers would typically care about. From there, we'll go to the first page of the financial statements. The government-wide financial statements, there are essentially two sets of financial statements in the report. There's the government-wide financial statements on pages 13 through 15. They present more of a long-term, full accrual focus. Looking at the governmental activities, you guys, I like to point out a couple of key metrics here, I guess. Most of my presentation will be focusing on the individual funds, but we'll lay out a few of the metrics from the government-wide statements here real quick. In terms of your governmental activities, we like to look at the current ratio, so your current assets versus your current liabilities, how easily you're able to pay your bills when they come due. You're currently looking at about 4.5 times more current assets than current liabilities in the governmental activities. The unrestricted net position in the governmental activities, again, it is a negative number, mainly just because of the presentation of the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability in these statements. Your pension plan is about 59% funded. The OPEB plan, and that 59% is as of December 31st, 2024, which is MERS fiscal year end. The OPEB plan, as of June 30th, 2025, was at about 54% funded. And the bottom line for the year was you added to your net position for the governmental activities by about $6,064,000. For the business type activities, you added about $9 million to your total net position. And it presents essentially the same information as what's in the fund level financial statements. We'll talk about those funds in a few moments here in the next few slides. So next page, we get into the governmental funds financial statements, pages 16 and 18. This is more of a short-term current resources focus. Probably more what you're familiar with seeing in the monthly meetings. It's going to omit things such as capital assets, long-term debt, your net pension liability, net OPEB liability. Those long-term resources, long-term obligations are not going to be presented in the fund level financial statements here. Looking at page 16, the governmental funds balance sheet, kind of a snapshot of your financial condition, close of business on June 30th. We're going to focus mainly on just the general fund. The other governmental funds are all limited as to their use. So the total fund balance for the general fund was $3,895,308. There are 5 potential classes or classifications of fund balance. There's non-spendable fund balance, things that you've already spent, such as inventory, prepaids. You can't really spend them again. You're just going to use them in the future. Restricted fund balance would be external restrictions, things like granting sources, donors, things like that. Committed fund balance would be more formal city council earmarks or resolutions. They also require resolutions or approval to then spend those committed resources. Assigned fund balance would be a less formal, more of a management earmarking. And then the unassigned fund balance would be everything that's left over for future spending, your cumulative resources. The city of Marshall presents fund balance in 3 of the 5 categories. You present things in the non-spendable fund balances. Again, that's going to be the inventory, prepaids, committed fund balance, and then also unassigned fund balance. We essentially consider the unrestricted fund balance, the spendable portion, to be the unassigned and the assigned fund balance combined. Those 2 things combined to be about $2.2 million, so $2,246,769. And that represents about 25% of your annual general fund expenditures. The GFOA likes to recommend at least 17% to give yourselves about a 2-month cushion cash flow. So at 25%, you're over the 17%. Good, healthy fund balance there. That 25% represents about 3 months of operations. The next page we look at was going to be a few key items from the Statement of Revenues, Expenditures, Changes in Fund Balance, again for the general fund. It's going to be on page 18 of the financial statements. In terms of total revenues, you ended the year June 30, 2025. Total revenue is about $9,183,129, which is about a $39,000 increase from your 2024 revenues, which is only about a 0.4%, so less than a 1% increase in your total revenues. Big changes I thought here would be about a $510,000 increase in taxes and a $278,000 increase in interest and rents, so investment performance. Total expenditures, they also increased about $200,000 from 2024, which is about a 2.4% increase from 2024. A couple of the big increases here would be about a $316,000 increase in your police department and about a $241,000 increase in the fire department, fire activities. Net transfers in and out of the general fund was about $231,000 net transfer out, so essentially a financing uses. And the bottom line here is you added to your fund balance $341,632. And that's last year in 2024 you had about $288,614. It's important to note too, part of these increases or numbers here is moving out. I believe it was the Parks and Recreation programs out of the general fund. We moved those over into a separate special revenue fund this year. So even though those activities aren't included in the general fund, your overall activity for the revenues and expenses still increased a little bit. Next couple of slides are going to be some graphs kind of showing kind of a 5-year trend for the general fund and some composition of the revenues and expenditures. So the first graph here, the little 5-year bar chart. Blue bars representing total expenditures, total revenues. Burgundy bars representing the total expenditures, and the yellowish bars representing the total fund balance. As you can see, you've added to your fund balance. The blue bars have exceeded the burgundy bars about 4 of the past 5 years. Slight use of fund balance back in 2023. So overall, a good financial trend, I guess. Good sound financial condition. Next page, we'll look at a pie chart representing the composition of your general fund revenues and other financing sources. The big blue piece of the pie there, the property taxes, your largest revenue source at about 53%. That compares to about 50% the year before. Intergovernmental resources, the burgundy piece there at about 17%. That's going to be any federal grants, state shared revenue, things like that. That was about 20% last year. And then the large yellowish piece of the pie there is everything else. It's going to be your charges for services, licenses and permits, fines and forfeits, interest, transfers in, that kind of stuff. Next page is going to be the composition of the general fund expenditures and other financing uses. Largest piece of the pie here, the burgundy section there is public safety. That's going to include the police and fire activities. That's about 46% compared to about 40% the year before. General government, I believe that's the blue piece of the pie there, is 26%. And it was also 26% last year, so about the same as a percentage of your total expenditures. Public works, the yellowish piece of the pie there, 19% compares to about 18% last year. So overall, fairly consistent with your expenditures for the year. The last graph here, I believe, for the general fund, we're going to look at the unrestricted fund balance. So again, that's the assigned and the unassigned fund balance as it relates to your annual expenditures. Going from a low point in, I believe it's 24 and 25 of about 25%. And then the highest point back in 2022 was about 34%. So again, the GFOA likes to recommend at least 17% to give yourselves that 2 months of cash flow cushion. So you're exceeding that in each of these 5 years. Next thing we'll look at, I guess, is the proprietary funds, so the business type activity funds. This will be the financial statements for pages 20 through 25. This will also be more of the long-term full accrual focus. Same level as we looked at for the government-wide financial statements, but this will be broken down in a little bit more detail, broken out by fund. So we'll go through each of the 4 major enterprise funds here. There actually was a 5th enterprise fund that was major this year for the Marshall House, but this will be the last year of that fund, so we didn't include any slides for it. So starting with the electric fund, looks like revenues have increased over the years from 2021 through 2023, and then they reduced a little bit back for 2024, and they held steady in 2025. Expenditures appear to have held steady over the past few years. Again, in this graph here, the blue represents the revenues, burgundy being the expenses, and then the yellowish being the total net position. Next page is going to be also for the electric fund, the composition of your total net position. With the, kind of hard to see here on the printout here. So the green pieces is your unrestricted net position, so the amount that's available for spending. The red pieces is the restricted net position. And then the blue is going to be the invested in capital assets. So in other words, things that you've already spent in capital assets, you can't really spend them again. You're just going to use those capital assets in the future to provide services. Back in 21 and 2022, your unrestricted net position here was a negative number. That flipped in 2023 and has steadily grown in 24 and 25. Next graph is going to be for the wastewater fund, similar to the electric fund there. The 5-year presentation of your total revenues, total expenses, total net position. Again, the blue bars being your revenues, burgundy being the expenses, net position being the yellow bars there. Nice healthy upward trend in your net position for each of the past 5 years. Revenues have exceeded the expenses. Next page is going to be the composition of your net position. Again, the greenish pieces there is going to be your unrestricted net position, the spendable portion. The restricted portion is going to be the red in the middle, and then the blue is going to be your investment in your capital assets. Next page, the water fund, similar graphs. As you can see here, it looks like there was a slight decrease in 2024, but overall, from 21 through 25, good healthy increase in the net position. Again, a slight decrease, slight use of your net position in 2024. Next graph shows the composition of your total net position. The green bars representing the unrestricted, red being the restricted portion, and then the blue being the capital assets invested. Finally, we get to the FiberNet fund. Blue bars being the total revenues, burgundy being the expenses, and then yellow being the net position. You can see the total net position from 21 through 2024. In fact, I believe since the inception of the fund, the unrestricted net position has been negative. That did flip in 2025 to a positive net position. And finally, on this fund here, the FiberNet fund, the unrestricted fund balance being the red pieces, and the blue being the net investment in capital assets. So the unrestricted portion here is still negative, but the total fund balance is positive. And there was no deficit elimination plan being required for the state because the current resources and the current liabilities were a positive number there. So no need to file a elimination plan for the state. And then we get into the supplementary information of the financial statements. So again, because you spent more than $750,000 in the year for federal awards, we were required to do a single audit, which is a compliance audit over federal programs. We'll highlight some of the key items here, I guess, the summary. So the next slide is going to be a snapshot, I guess, of your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. It's a little bit small to read there, but your total federal awards for the year was $1,415,169. That compares to about $2.2 million from 2024. For the current year, we selected the CDBG program as our program to test, which covered 26% of your federal awards. Because you were a low-risk auditee, we had to test 20% of your total federal awards, so that 26% got us that coverage. Basically, the difference between a low-risk auditee and a high-risk auditee would be if you had not had a single audit in the past 2 years, or if you had had material weaknesses in the past 2 years, we would have to consider you guys to be a high-risk auditee, in which case we just have to test 40% of your federal awards as opposed to 20%. But since you've had a single audit at least in the past 2 years with no material weaknesses, you're considered to be a low-risk auditee. So again, we just had to test the 20% of your federal awards. Next page is a snapshot of the summary of the auditor's results from the schedule of findings and question costs. Starts out with the financial statement section here. We've issued an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. There were no material weaknesses, there were no significant deficiencies, and there was no non-compliance material to the financial statements. In terms of the federal awards, there were no material weaknesses, there were no significant deficiencies, and we issued an unmodified opinion on your compliance with the federal awards. And there were no findings required to be communicated under 2 CFR. The next page here gives the bottom portion of that same schedule, lays out the program that we tested. So assistance listing number 14.228, the community development and block grant. Next line there shows that the type A threshold between a type A program or a type B program was $750,000. And then the last line there, auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee. Again, we checked yes because you've had a single audit in the past 2 years with no material weaknesses. Last thing I want to go over real quick is page 66 from the financial statements. Note 19, there are 2 new GASB pronouncements coming up here next year. GASB 103 is going to deal with some financial reporting improvements. So similar to GASB 34, this one will bring some changes to the MD&A. It's going to bring some changes to the presentation of the business type activities. And it's also going to bring some changes to the budget to actual statements. So currently, the budget to actual statements it presents a column for the original budget the final amended budget and then the year-to-date actual numbers. And then it provides a column for the variance between the amended budget and the actual performance. Next year with GASB 103, you'll see, in addition to those columns, you're also going to see a variance column between the original budget and the amended budget. And then any significant changes between the original budget and the amended budget will have to be explained. So it kind of focuses on the budgeting process, I guess, as far as how well you adopt the original budget versus the amended budget. GASB 104, disclosure of certain capital assets, also takes effect next year, but really will have minimal effect on the city. It's going to require separate disclosure of certain capital assets such as intangible leases, subscription-based information technology agreements, things like that. Again, minimal anticipated effect on the city. That's all I plan to go over, but if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. And if I can't answer them tonight, I'll get back with you as soon as I can with an answer.
On the GASB 103 reporting,
Yep.
is there like a threshold that where it's going to trigger additional scrutiny, or what are the?
I think there is. I'm not entirely sure what that would be. I'm not sure if it's like a 10% increase, decrease per line item.
Will they provide guidance to that eventually?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, William. I know this is a lot of work for your department, so truly appreciate this end result, and as always, an excellent result. All right. That will move us to item 12A, and we'll welcome William back to talk about the minimum cash reserve policy for FiberNet Fund.
That item, can we get some action on the 8A? I think we had a suggestion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that all right?
We just need to accept.
You just need to accept it, yeah.
I move that we approve the receipt of fiscal year 2025 annual financial audit and place it on file in the office of the city clerk.
Support. A motion to support, this be a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now,
All right, council, mayor. Previously, we've established a fund balance policy, and in the most recent years, to be a little more stringent, we've adopted electric, water, and wastewater cash reserve policies. One of the goals for the finance department this year was to create a cash reserve policy for FiberNet, and that is what I brought forward here. A minimum cash reserve policy will help ensure that FiberNet maintains adequate unrestricted funds to pay operating and maintenance expenses in a timely manner, meet current year debt service obligations, fund any capital improvement needs for the current year, and account for potential fluctuations in billing rates, customer counts, and just those types of fluctuations. Within the cash reserve policy that we have here attached to the report, you'll see that the minimum cash reserve policy, we have some methodology, and is based on our annual operation and maintenance expenses, the current year debt services of 100% of your current year debt service obligations. Sorry, it was 2 months of their annual operation and maintenance expenses, and 20% of 1/5 of the capital improvement plan's projected budget, reduced by any projects that we would use bonding or sell debt on. The minimum cash reserve amount shall be the total derived from that calculation. We do have a sample calculation on the last page. And as Regis pointed out, there was some user error there, and I had a calculation that was incorrect. The total cash reserve calculation for expenses, you can disregard the number I have there. It's actually $744,800, which actually puts us right where we want for the cash generation each year for the estimate that we wanted to be at. if you look at the little footnote there, FiberNet actually does have a deficit unrestricted net position of negative $2.5 million.
If we could
This
keep
is-
conversations down, please. Thank you.
This is based on our actual cash and investment balance that we have on hand. If we were to calculate it based on that negative $2.5 million, it would take us currently at this same rate, it'll be about 10 years to get to that level. I backed that out because, as we did with water and wastewater, we take out debt because we've already calculated that in one of the other line items, so I didn't want to double dip on that. If you had any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Once again, this is just to put out something a little more strict than our current fund balance policy.
So with the change in that total number, does that mean we're currently meeting it?
Yeah, exactly right. We're right where we want to be.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
Can you just explain for everybody's clarity how we're, so in the audit that we just heard, it sounded like we were in a positive net position, and then now you're saying it's negative 2 million. So can you just explain that?
Yep. So for audit purposes, our assets outweigh our liabilities. That way, that's why we don't have to do anything with the state showing that we're in a deficit. So as far as the audit goes, we're good to go. But as far as our unrestricted net position, it's a negative $2.5 million. And that's because if you remember when FiberNet first started, we had to take loans out from the general fund, the LDFA, electric department, wastewater, and a few others. We are paying those off. We worked towards that over the last few years, and I think electric's just about paid off after this fiscal year, and then we'll move on to the other departments. If we would have bonded for it, it would show up a little differently on this. So it's just the way it looks because of the way we did it.
Was electric our largest debt, or?
Electric, we started paying back. We had a couple different options as far as payback. We had one that paid back everyone equally over a 15-year period. Electric at the time was actually in its own deficit, so we decided to pay that one back first. And that's the reason behind that.
Gotcha.
So it's a positive cash flow. We're making our annual payment to those individual funds, but we have to recognize that we owe those funds. So essentially, that's what that big number is.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Thank you, Will.
Thanks.
If there's no further questions or discussion, I will seek a motion regarding item 12A.
I move that we adopt the FiberNet Fund Minimum Cash Reserve Policy to help ensure the FiberNet Department maintains adequate cash to meet its requirements and as a safeguard against potential future deficits.
Support.
A motion and support. This is a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks again, Wayne. That brings us to item 12B, Resolution 2025-35 for the AMP Solar Purchase Power Agreement. And Director Maynard.
Good evening. We've got 3 items on the agenda for your consideration this evening. All of them are related to Public Act 235 adopted by the Michigan Legislature in November of 2023. 2 of the big pieces of that legislation are that all electric utilities, including the City of Marshall's electric department in the state of Michigan, are required to prepare and file renewable energy plans and also energy waste reduction plans. So with the first step here, the renewable energy, there are targets that are established in the act, and they start at 15%, which is where we are today. We have to have at least 15% renewable energy in our city power supply portfolio. That 15% changes in 2030 to 50% of our power supply has to become coming from renewable resources, 60% renewable energy beginning in 2035, and then 100% renewable and what they term clean energy beginning in 2040. So some of those clean energy technologies include nuclear, maybe waste heat to energy, those types of projects. But the city currently is at about 20% renewable, so we've got a good start on it. We're complying with what we need to through 2029. But it makes sense for us to consider layering in some different resources, renewable resources, if we can, to try to make our way toward compliance with the state law. And if we can do that and keep our power supply costs the same or less, then those are the kinds of situations we're looking for. The first one of those on the agenda is the Kearsarge Solar Purchase Power Agreement. AMP has negotiated arrangements with Kearsarge Solar. They are building multiple solar projects here in Michigan that are connected to Consumers Energy Distribution System with a total generating capacity of a little over 27 megawatts. AMP recommends that the city subscribe for up to 4.29 megawatts of the Kearsarge Solar Project. It includes energy, capacity, and those renewable energy credits that we're looking for to comply with the state law. The initial contract term is 20 years, and it's got a fixed price of $80 per megawatt hour that